Hey everyone, it's Gina from orchidandopal.com, and today I'm back with a tutorial that is using the contents of the recent Eureka Crystal Beads collection that was done in collaboration with Bronze Pony. That collection was called Seaside Dreams and contained some really gorgeous shades of turquoise and seafoam, some coppers and golds, and that is the palette that you see that I used in the earrings that are completed with those crystal bicones on the ear wires. That collection may be sold out at this point. I'll still link it down below so you can see what the contents are. And I do believe it's still available as the designer bundle where you can pick up that collection at a discount along with a couple of others. I'll also leave the full materials list and links to everything individually right down below. And I have created these earrings in 3 other colorways just to give you an example of what they would look like done in a different palette. And today we'll be making the purple and silver one together. You can find everything you need to make these earrings and a lot more at Eureka Crystal Beads. So have fun choosing your colors if you want to pick out something totally different. But the star of the show in these earrings is the Krakowski Trillion Cut Crystal. I'm going to show you how you can make a bezel for that today using some 15-0 seed beads, 11-0 seed beads, 11-0 Miyuki Delicas, and some Toho 8-0 triangles. Now, if you don't have Toho 8-0 triangles, you still could probably use perhaps a couple of smaller seed beads in their place, or maybe a 2mm fire polish bead, something like that. The 8-0 seed bead in the round might stick out a little bit too much to use, but you can still experiment if you don't have the triangles and want to use something else. For beading thread, I'll be using the 6-pound test Fireline, and I'm going with the black color just so it's easier for you to see in the tutorial, and I have it on a size 11 beading needle. I'll show you how to make one complete earring, and then you can back up the video to make your other one so you'll have a pair. And in the meantime, you can gather up your materials and thread your beading needle with a comfortable length of beading thread, and we will jump into this tutorial. For our first step, we're going to pick up 33 Delica beads, and mine got a little bit mixed in with my 15-0s, so just focused on the purple ones that I'm doing. So again, 33 of the Delicas. And once you have all of those on your thread, you can pull them down to your tail. Leave yourself a few inches that you can weave back in a little bit. And for now, you're going to take your needle and sew back through each one of those 33 beads that you just added, making sure that you don't miss any. And we're going to start to form this into more of a loop. All right, so I didn't even go past the point where we started. I just went through all 33 of those beads. For now, what we're going to do is start to form this into more of a triangular shape. And to do that, we're going to pick up 1 Delica, then sew through the next 11 Delica beads. And then give that a pull and do that again. You'll end up with 1 bead sticking out on each corner. We're going to pick up a Delica and then sew through the next 11 Delica beads. We have 1 more to go. Picking up our Delica. And with this last group of 11, that should land you right back to the beginning and right before where you added in that first bead on the other corner. When you pull this, you should have more of a triangular shape, something that looks a little bit like that, with our bead that's sticking out at each corner. Next, we're going to take our working thread, skip over that next bead that's sticking out on the corner, and sew through the next 2 Delica beads. And we're going to continue working in peyote stitch on the sides. So that means we're going to pick up a Delica, skip the next Delica, and sew through the next. Repeat this 3 more times on this side, picking up a Delica, skipping the next, and sewing through the next. Do that again. Pull that nice and tight. And then we have 1 more to go on this side. And then we're gonna, instead of sewing through 1 bead, we're gonna actually be sewing through the next 2 on that last one before you get to the next corner. And then skip the bead on the corner and sew through the next 2 Delica beads. And now repeat what you did on that other side. Pick up a Delica, skip the next and sew through the next. And you'll end up with 4 sticking out on each side. This time, sew through the next 2 beads when you're approaching that next corner. And again, sew through the next 2 beads on the other side, skipping the one on the corner. Again, pulling this tight as you go. We have 1 more side to do. And then go through those last 2 on this side. And then again, skip the corner, go through the next 2 beads, but also step up through the one that's sticking out on that first side that we did. Give that a pull, and here's a look at what you should have at this point. And we are going to do another round of peyote using our Delica beads. And this time we're going to incorporate these beads that are sticking up at the corner. So let's continue on by picking up a Delica and then sewing through the next one that's sticking out. And repeat that process all the way around. And we're at our corner. We're going to go ahead and pick that one up, or go through it rather. And continue around the side. And then going through that corner. And going around our last corner, again picking up a bead and going through the normal Delica that we would, but also we're going to step up now and go through that next bead that's sticking up. And at this point, when you pull this nice and tight, your beads are going to start stacking on top of each other a little bit more, which is what you want. And we still have this sort of triangular shape, so pull that as tight as you can within reason. And at this point, I like to just put a needle on my tail thread, and I'm going to weave that back into the beadwork just to get it out of the way for the tutorial, and I'll be right back. All right, now my thread is coming out of this bead that's sticking up. We're going to continue with another round of peyote using our Delica beads, picking one up, going through the one that's sticking up again to start our next row. And again, pull this tight as you go. And now we're at one of our corners, picking up a Delica, going through the next one on the other side. Pull. So we're going to end up with 2 Delicas stacked up at the corner. And we're on our next corner. And going around our last corner. Going through the next bead that's sticking up and the next one to step up and pull this nice and tight. And you should have something that looks like this with your corners incorporated and your beadwork starting to come inward just a little bit. This is going to be the back of our bezel. And for now, we're going to continue doing one more round of peyote stitch, but this time use our 15-0s. So pick up a 15-0 and just continue sewing through the beads that are sticking up all the way around like we've been doing. Be sure to grab that one that's right in the corner. And we're on our last one. We'll go through our next Delica and also step up by going through the next 15-0. Pull. And this is what we have so far. Now we're going to go around that ring of beads one more time to reinforce it. And this time we're going to go through the 2 15-0s at the corner together, skipping the Delica that's at the corner. So I'm going to go like a couple beads at a time, just around that ring again. And I'm coming out at that first 15-0 at a corner. And like I said, instead of going through that Delica that's right there, I'm going to continue on through the next 15-0 and just bring those beads together a little bit more. And keep going, and we'll do this sewing at least one more time through this section and at least a little bit further than where you started to bring it all together back there. And I'm at a corner again, so just going through those 2 15-0s, and I'll keep going. And once you've secured that back there nicely, you can take your needle and just weave this back up. And follow the thread path to be coming out of one of your Delicas that is sticking up on the side of what will be the top of your bezel. And now we can take our crystal and just gently place that in there, and we'll hold that in place loosely as we continue on. We're going to continue this bezel with some 15-0 seed beads, and we're also going to put a triangle in each corner. But coming out of this Delica that's sticking up right here, I'll pick up another 15-0, sew through the next Delica that's sticking out, and repeat that 2 more times. And when we get to our last section before our corner, we're actually going to go through the next 2 Delicas. I'll give this a little turn. And we're going to pick up a triangle and then skip over the next 3 Delicas and go through that next one that's on the other side of our bezel and give that a pull. So that triangle should be centered at one corner of your crystal, and then continue going with your 15-0s. You'll have 3 of those on each side. When you get to your last one, once again, go through the next 2 beads. Then you'll pick up a triangle, skip the next 3 Delicas, and go through the next. Once again, pull this nice and tight and start to form it over the top of your crystal. And we'll do this side. We'll insert our last triangle and just go through that next Delica that you normally would. You can see now we've got our 3 triangles placed. Pull this tight and start to get your crystal in place where you want it. Then follow the thread path through the next few 15-0s and Delica beads that you're getting to. And when you come out of the 15-0 that's approaching your next triangle, you're going to pick up 2 more 15-0s and then sew directly through the triangle. And then pick up 2 more 15-0s and sew through the 15-0 that's on the other side of that. Go through the next row of Delicas and 15-0s till you get to that next section on the other side. And now pick up 2 15-0s again. sew directly through the triangle, pick up 2 more 15-0s, sew through the 15-0 on this side, and continue sewing through the beads. And when you're coming out of that last 15-0, we'll grab our 2 15-0s to add right here. Sew through the triangle, pick up 2 more 15-0s, and then sew through that next 15-0 after this triangle. And then once again, pull this all together. You should have something that looks like this on the front, and then there's a look at the back, and we're ready to continue on with our next step. And next, just continue through your beadwork, following your thread path, and I'll show you where you want to be coming out to start your next step. I want to get to my other corner. Just going to go through these Delica beads. And you want to be coming out of a Delica bead that is located directly above one of your triangles, but to the right. So you see how you have one that's centered that I'm going through as well there, but you want to be coming out of the one that is going down towards the right side. And now we're going to use some of our 11-0 seed beads. We're going to pop some of these in on 2 sides. So from here, pick up one of those. And then looking at the side of your piece, skip over 1 row of Delicas and then go through that second one that you get to in that following row. It's kind of in that middle of that set of 3 on that row, and you can pop one of your 11-0s in on the side like that. Pick up another 11-0, look directly across, skipping this next row of Delicas, but going through the one that's directly across from the one you're coming out of. And do that again. And do that once more. We have 4 in place on this side. Pick up another one, and then this time when you get to your next corner, go through that next Delica that is centered over the top of the triangle in this corner, which will be this one right here. That's going to end up being the bottom of your earring. And then pick up another 11-0, and you're going to mirror what we just did over here. So we're going to skip over that next bead that's going off to the side in that next little row, go through that second Delica over here, and repeat this process around this side. And then when you get to this next corner, you'll pick up your last seed bead, skip over that next row of Delicas, and this time go up through that Delica that is off to the side of that next triangle that you get to next, so that we mirror what we did on the other side. And you end up with this. So you have 5 seed beads sticking out on 2 of the sides. This center part is going to be our very bottom center of our earring. And for now, we just want to get back to the point where we're going back through that last seed bead that we added, we're going to add some triangles in between those. So just follow your thread path any way that you can. I'll go through some beads on the back. And just turn around and go back through that last seed bead that you had added on that corner. And now we're going to just pick up a triangle, sew through the next seed bead that's sticking out, and repeat that until we get to the bottom. So pick up a triangle, go through the next seed bead, do this 2 more times. When you get to the bottom, you're going to pick up this time 2 of your triangles and go up through the next seed bead. Then pick up 1 triangle and add that in between each of these seed beads, mirroring the other side. One more to go. And this is what we have so far. And now we're going to go down through those beads again one more time. So just like you did before, just follow your thread path any way that you can to be coming back out of that last seed bead that you just exited. Just carefully go through these Delicas. You don't want to break any. And just turn around. And come back out of that last seed bead. Go through that row of triangles and seed beads again till you get to the bottom. And when you're coming out of that triangle on this side of the bottom, you'll pick up 1 11-0 and then sew through the next triangle, the next seed bead, and continue on through the beads around the other side. Just like that. So here's what you have so far, and now we just need to work on the beadwork that's going to sit at the top of our earring. And at this point, I'm coming out of that last seed bead, and I want to follow the thread path to just be coming out of the center Delica bead, or the one that's sitting centered behind that triangle that's on the front of the bezel, which happens to be this one. So we're coming out of this corner at the top, and we're going to pick up a triangle, and then looking at the top of our bezel, skip over that next Delica bead and then the next row, sew through the next Delica, and that placed a triangle back here in this corner. And then we want to follow our thread path through these Delica beads to get to the other side. And when we're coming out right there, out of this Delica bead, we can pick up our other triangle that we want to mirror that was on this side and go through the Delica that's sitting at the back center of that other triangle that's on our other corner. And pull that. And now you can see that we've got these 2 triangles that are sitting on the top at each of those corners. And we want to, once again, just follow our thread path so that we can be coming out of that last triangle that we just placed. We want to be coming out of this direction And now we're going to form a loop between these two triangles by picking up 21 of our 15 O's. So once you have 21 of those on, pull those down and go through the other triangle, going through this direction. And now you have this loop that's in place, and we're going to do a little bit of flat peyote stitch onto that. But first, we want to be coming back through these Delica beads, gently, once again, don't break any beads. And when you're coming out of this point, like right below that triangle, go ahead and add another 15-0, and then head up the next 15-0 that's on that loop. Then we're going to add a row of peyote with our Delica beads. So skip the next 15-0 and sew through the next. Pick up a Delica, skip the next 15-0 and sew through the next. And do that all the way around. We need to add our last Delica. And then we're going to pick up our 15-0 and mirror what we did on this side, just adding one right at the bottom into our beadwork gently. And then we just need to follow our thread path so we can turn around again. And I'm going to come through that triangle. And I'll head up that next 15-0 right there, and then come up and out of that Delica that you get to first. Just like that. And at this point, you're going to pick up a triangle. Then sew through the next Delica. Pick up another triangle. Sew through the next Delica. Then pick up an 11-0 and sew through the next Delica. And repeat that 4 more times. And in these last 2 spots, you're going to insert another triangle, just like we did on the other side. Just going through that next Delica and pull everything together. And now we have this, and we can turn around by going up through the 15-0 that's next to the Delica we're coming out of. And I'm going to head up through the next Delica and triangle, go through the next Delica, seed bead, Delica, and seed bead, so that we're coming out of this second 11-0. Now we're just going to form a little peak up here, and we're going to pick up one 11-0, go through the next 11-0, pick up one 11-0, go through the next. So we have that, and then we want to pop one more in right in the center. And then we'll just do a turnaround right here to get to the space where we can add one to the top, going through the 15-0 and the Delica right there, turning around. Then through the 15-0 and Delica right there. Then I'm going to step up through that 11-0, pick up one, and sew through the next 11-0, and just continue sewing through some more beads. But that's how we get that peak at the top, and that completes our beadwork. So at this point, what you can do is just weave in your working thread a little bit more, make a couple half-hitch knots by going under a thread bridge like this, then going through the loop, hide your thread by going through a few more beads, make another half-hitch knot, go through a few more beads. Do that several times until you feel like your piece is secure, and then you can trim off your excess thread and we can attach some findings to the top of our earring. And now I'll show you how I finished this one off with the ear wire with the crystal if you wanted to try something like that, but you can finish these off in any way you like. But I'm going to take, just to give you an example, an ear wire that looks like this, and you're welcome to make your own also, but if you have one that's already formed, you can just gently take your pliers and start to reshape that loop into more of a flat, straight piece of wire so that you can string on a bead. I'm going to take one of these 4mm bicones that coordinates and just slide that up a little bit. Then I'm going to take my round nose pliers and I'm going to form a new little loop on the end of this to hold our bead in place like that. And then you can also take your pliers a little bit above where that bead is and just bend that a little bit so that it'll be a little bit harder for that bead to just, say, slide off that ear wire. You can start to bend the top down just a little bit more, and you can see now your ear wire is back in place, and we can take a small jump ring, and again, this is just one way to do it. Finish off your earring however you want, but I'm going to take this and I'm going to feed it through that very top seed bead, and then I'm going to take my ear wire and it's going to sit just like that. I'm going to go through the loop that we made, and then I will take my pliers and just close that back up by twisting it. And now you can see that our earrings are complete. And that wraps up this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. You'll have to let me know down below if you decided to make these and if you decided to try them out in another color or anything else you'd like to say. Thank you so much for being here. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe. I'd love to have you back. Don't forget the full materials list and the links are located right down below the video, and all the contents can be found in the Seaside Dreams collection by Eureka Crystal Beads, which I also have linked down below. And besides that, Eureka Crystal Beads has all these items in so many other different colors that you can use. If you enjoyed the video, please feel free to give it a big thumbs up and be sure to share it with your other beading friends. Until next time, I'll be back again real soon, and as always, happy beading!